If you are just starting your embroidery business, I want to save you from the biggest mistake that every single beginner makes, which is buying everything. You do not need a room full of supplies to get started. You just need the right supplies. Hello, beautiful people. I am Tanish Fortson, the creator of Embroidery Mastery. Today, I'm showing you the supplies that I use in my business so you can stop overthinking and start your embroidery business. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. First, you're going to need an embroidery machine, and this is the machine that I got started on. I do have a video on my old hair channel, so I will link that right now, and you guys will see when I first bought this machine, there was no studio, there were no overly buying of supplies, there was nothing. It was just me and my dream of having a home-based embroidery business. So I am living proof that a single needle is more than enough to launch a profitable business when you are first getting started. You don't need the biggest and most expensive machine. You need one that you can learn on and use consistently, because I'd rather see you master a single needle machine than struggle with a multi-needle machine that you don't understand or even know how to work. So this little machine right here started my embroidery journey, and I upgraded about a year and a half later once I was sure that I wanted to pursue embroidery. Next is your thread, and I recommend that you stick with quality thread, because I did buy some little threads off of Amazon, and I did keep getting a lot of thread breaks with my single needle machine. I did invest in a single needle starter kit of thread by Madeira. At the time of purchase, it was about $150, and it came with quite a bit of thread. You may not need as many colors as I had when I first started off because I bought the kit. You may only need blacks, whites, and more neutral colors. The colors that you need will depend on the type of embroidery that you're doing. Specific colors like the big thread wall that I have over here can come a little bit later when you have made more money to invest back into your business. Next, as someone just starting an embroidery business, you will need stabilizers. So now that I have been in business for a while, I do buy the larger rolls because you save money when you buy in bulk. But when I first started off, I would use all stitch embroidery supplies, and I would order the rolls that were this size that were perfect for my single needle embroidery machine. This is about 14 inches, and it did come with about 100 yards of stabilizer. Now, your stabilizers matter more than most people think. Cutaway and tearaway stabilizers are your foundations. That is where you're going to start. You can add on specialty stabilizer a little further along when you know exactly what you're going to be making and how you need to stabilize it. But I would say starting with a good cutaway and a good tearaway stabilizer is the foundation. So just start there before you branch out into specialty stabilizers. Now next, as a beginner who wants to start an embroidery business, you need to focus on the hoops that you will be needing. So with my single needle embroidery machine, they came with a 5x7 and a 4x4 hoop. So what I did was I went to Amazon and I ordered this 5x12 hoop. A little bit later, after I had been embroidering a while, I did order a magnetic hoop. This is for a 5x7, and I ended up buying extra 5x7 hoops as well as extra 5x12 hoops. Me buying extra hoops was me speeding up the assembly line or the production of my merchandise. Whenever something was finished on my single needle machine, I would already have everything hooped and ready to go. So as soon as it finished, I could grab the garment that was already hooped and put it right on the machine. So another thing that I want to recommend is that you really only need the hoop sizes that you're going to be stitching on in the beginning. You don't need to go out and buy every single hoop size. Only buy the ones that support the current products that you are making. You can always upgrade later. Now, let's talk about blanks. Blanks is where most beginners go wrong. I know you guys aren't gonna like me saying this, but choose a niche. You need to be known for something when you're first entering this field, whether it's hats, shirts, baby blankets, bag tags, stuffies. I mean, you need to pick one, and then you're going to buy the supplies that you need for that specific niche. You should only be buying supplies that support what you sell. Don't just get supplies because it may seem fun or you want to try all these different things, which you can, but try it later once you start making money. For example, when I first got started in embroidery, I was making baby bows. So I had a lot of ribbon and a lot of bow material. And then once I sold a few of those, I had extra money. So I started making baby blankets. It was rather soon into my embroidery business, but since I was already focused and my target audience was kids, it was a seamless transition to introduce baby blankets into my niche. It was simple and easy because I already had the audience that supported children's garments and children's items. It is okay to start in one thing and end up in another. Just know that when you switch it up too much, it may impact your audience. As far as supplies, I would already know the supplies that I need. Since I'm selling bows, I already have my bow stuff. Since I'm selling blankets, I already have my blankets. And I would get the products that I need specifically for making patches or bag tags or something like that, which would be, you know, you're gonna get a little bit of fabric. You don't need a lot. You're going to get your marine vinyl that you're going to embroider their name on. You may want to even get some twill. And remember, you're already making bows, so you already have a lot of the materials. So you can embroider on some of the fabric sheets that you are making your bows with. All of this is bow making items. So like I said, it will integrate flawlessly. You know, if you decorate them and you make them shaker, like shaker wallets, the shaker bag tags, you will just need glitter. You will need some embellishments like this and just some little keychains so that they can clip these on their backpacks. The only thing I really want to say about switching up your niche when you already have an established audience, because I did this, it does take a really long time and it's kind of like rebuilding yourself again, and you will need to attract your target audience again. It just took me a long time to attract the right audience that wanted to purchase my products. So moving on to basic tools. This is really important because you need the right type of tools so that your embroidery turns out nice. It does not look good when your applique scissors don't do what they need to do and you can't properly weave and cut in between the lines to get your fabric nice. And then you're gonna need a satin stitch to cover that, and it's not gonna cover proper. So just buy the right tools that you need from the beginning. So these are my favorite applique scissors. These are the 6-inch ginger applique scissors, and they are curved. I have had these for 3 years. I haven't sharpened them. These have cut almost every single fabric you can think of, including heavy sequins and everything far and in between. These are another pair of scissors. I don't use them as often, but these are the duckbill scissors and they work pretty good. I believe these are more of a beginner scissors, and the duckbill helps you not cut the fabric. So these are my fabric shears. I do not cut fabric without having fabric shears, and you want to make sure that you're only cutting your fabric with your fabric shears. Do not cut anything else with them. These are a lifesaver. I do cut sequins with my fabric shears and they don't have any kinks and they have held up over the years. scissors. These are my starter applique scissors. These are the scissors that I first started off with as a beginner. They're pretty good. However, when you start to advance in your cutting, you're going to need applique scissors like these. Next are just basic things. These are just like thread snippers. You're going to need a seam ripper because there are going to be mistakes, and your tweezers just to pick out specific areas, pick HTV, or hold a teeny tiny thread while you clip them with your scissors. You really don't need to get too fancy with your supplies. They just need to be extremely functional. Now let's move on to packaging. For packaging, your packaging is going to need to be specific for the products that you are selling. Me, I sell a lot of hoodies and shirts, so I do have the bigger bags, and you always want to protect with your whatever you're selling with these types of bags. So if I'm shipping a garment and outside of the bag gets torn a little bit, my garment will be protected in this shield-like material in case it's raining or something like that, because you don't want the customer to open a package to a shirt that possibly may be dirty. Moving on, you are going to need some type of heat press if you are selling garments. This is the first heat press that I ever purchased. Actually, my first two, and it is the Cricut Easy Press. This is a 12 by 10 Easy Press, and it is great for small spaces because when I first started out, I did not have a studio. I was working off of the dining room table, and for my bows, I use the Cricut E Mini Press. This is great for getting into those really tight spaces. You are going to need a tripod because as a brand new business owner, you are going to need to market your business. I'm not going to get into marketing in this video. I'm not saying that you need to become a content creator, but you do need to show your process or show some type of behind the scenes with you making your products, because where are you going to get your customers from as a beginner? You're going to make the content and you are going to market that way. So you are going to need some type of sturdy tripod. It doesn't matter the size, whether it's tall or really, really small. You just need it to be solid. You need it to be metal. You need it to be sturdy so that your phone or whatever recording device that you're using isn't going to topple over. So your tripod needs to be able to handle some weight. So the next thing that you're going to need, which seems kind of obvious, you're going to need something to record your content on, which in the beginning, I use my iPhone 12 to record all of my content. All of my socials are listed, and I want you guys to go back and look at the beginning and compare to where I am now. It's a difference. It's not like a huge astronomical difference, but you can tell that later on I added, a higher quality iPhone, that I added audio. So I added a microphone, and all of those things came later. But what I did start off with was a tripod and my iPhone 12 to record my content. And the last thing that I want to touch on that is really important is you're going to need some type of software to tell your embroidery machine like what to do. You're going to need to send your embroidery design to your embroidery machine. So I started off with Embroidery Essentials. There's different types out there. However, I do think that this is the easiest and very easy and friendly to learn. Whether you're buying designs or you're learning how to digitize, a really important aspect to understand is how designs work. Once you figure out how to do the basics, you will save a lot of time and a lot of frustration. If you don't plan on digitizing, at least get Embroidery Essentials and learn, really learn how to do the basic stitch edits, like resizing a design, rotating the design, changing the color, adding text or merging different designs together. Those are the most basic things that you should learn how to do when learning how to embroider and first starting your business. So I know I focused on pretty much the essentials on getting started, but I do want to give you some ideas on things that you can consider upgrading at a later date and when you have more money. I do recommend that every embroiderer knows how to digitize. You will see successful people that are highly successful that they don't know how to digitize. However, it's just a really good skill to have. I see what it has done for my business. I see that when I created my lock brand and I started making my own designs, how everybody was attracted to those designs. I have a lot of ideas and it is extremely hard trying to explain to a digitizer how to express the ideas that are in my head. Like, you know, you really have to put your best foot forward and explain how you want your design to someone else and rely on their interpretation of your design. I didn't like doing all that, so I learned how to digitize, and I started off with Stitch Artist Level 2, then I upgraded to Stitch Artist Level 3, and then I also added other aspects of Embroiance software like Embroiance Enthusiast. Another upgrade to consider adding a little bit later is a microphone. This is the microphone that I use. It is a magnetic microphone. It allows me to move around my studio without holding a microphone. If you look at my more beginning videos, I didn't use a microphone back then. I just used my iPhone and I was still able to grow and accomplish great things within the embroidery community and the niche without having a microphone. It just helps the audio. I do truly believe that people will not hang around your video if the audio is bad. Another thing to upgrade to is multi-needle machine. I upgraded about a year and a half later, but I was 100% positive that I was going to be in this niche. I see a lot of people getting multi-needles and they don't know how to use them. They don't know how to put it to work and they're not making any money. I urge you to be 1000% sure that embroidery is what you want to do before investing in a multi-needle, because they are thousands and thousands of dollars. However, they do take your business to the next level. I am a complete witness to that. Another thing that I want you to consider upgrading to a little bit later is a hooping station, the Mighty Hoops. I can't say enough good things about Mighty Hoop. I love their products. They make production simple, smooth, easy, efficient, and quick. I mean, it really does not get any better than that. And one of the last things that I do want to mention that you can always add on later is extra inventory. I did not start off with all of this inventory, you guys. This is just extra inventory. And since I'm not selling locked products at the moment, it's really just a backdrop at this point. However, it wasn't until I was actually making a lot of money in embroidery that I invested in keeping inventory on hand. So I was able to offer more colors because I had the inventory on hand and it wasn't going to take me a week or so out to get that inventory. I was able to decrease my turnaround time, which is always a good thing. Honorable mention that I did forget to mention early are embroidery needles. This is not something that you're going to wait on getting. This is an essential. You're going to get different types of needles. You're going to have your needle for small text. If you're doing small text, you're going to have your regular standard needle, which is the 7511. You are going to have your larger eye needles, which is the 80/12 and the 90/14 needles on hand. This is really important. If you are not using the correct needle paired with the right stabilizer and the correct fabric, you are going to get needle breaks. So please remember that a successful embroidery business is not built on how many supplies that you own. It's built on how well you understand the supplies that you have, how you use them to produce this beautiful embroidery. My all-time recommendation is just to start simple. I want to take it a step further than saying just start. I want you to start with intention and already have that efficiency to move forward. Understand the type of materials that you are going to need within your specific niche, and then scale with intention. So stay tuned for my next video that will give you the simple steps to get your embroidery business up and running. If you have any questions or need me to elaborate further on anything that I talked about, please leave them below. If you did find this video helpful, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so that you can get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.